everybody, it's Emily and I'm here today to talk about books. Books. My books. These are my bookshelves and you can only kind of see a little bit of it with the way my camera is angled, but I have two big shelves here. Big shelves. And they are full of my books. And I have probably the least amount of books in my house because I tend to buy books for my kids more than I do myself, because that's just the way I can reason book purchases. I can convince myself to buy things for my kids, but not so much for me. So I wanted to talk today about my favorite books and my favorite book genres to read. So let's get started. Probably my most read genre is historical fiction, and I kind of rotate between three different cycles. One is Tudor England, as well as War of the Roses, and I read a lot of that kind of historical fiction, and Philippa Gregory is one of my favorite authors. Her books are awesome, and I love that they're quick and fun and easy reads. They're not the really deep. I love that kind of historical fiction too. The really deep, rich stuff like Alison Weir's books are really good. But when I just want to read some fluff, these are my go-to. I love Tudor England. I'm obsessed with Tudor England. I don't know why. It's just fascinating. All the intrigue, all the court gossip, all of that stuff, all the affairs and how insane it all was. I just love it. And then my other rotation is World War II era. I have been obsessed with World War II, particularly the Holocaust, since I was about 12. I was a morbid child. I don't know why, but I would read every book I could get my hands on back then about the Holocaust, and I wrote a 30-page term paper once about it. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I was obsessed. And my current favorite book in that time period is The Book Thief. This book is gorgeous. So beautiful. Like, seriously, so beautiful. I cried my eyes out when I read it. Then I read it to my kids, and I embarrassingly cried. And my kids are just like, what's wrong with mom? But it was a really good book, and I highly recommend it to everybody. And the other genre in that, or the other historical period I read a lot about is anything to do with Asia, China specifically, but also Japan. Memoirs of a Geisha, anything by Lisa C. I don't have a single book to show you from that because I don't own any of them. I have some on my Kindle, I think. Most of them I get through my library because that's where I get most of my books. I use my library religiously for books, so I don't own any Lisa C. books, which makes me sad. I should own them because her books are amazing. But I love all of that kind of stuff. I'm really into Asia for some reason. I really want to go there someday. It's a fascinating part of the world, and it's so different from what I'm used to that I love reading about it. I also really enjoy reading the classics, classic literature, and my favorite of all time is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I've read this book so many times, and it never gets old. I fall in love with Mr. Darcy every time, and my Mr. Darcy is also Colin Firth. He's beautiful. And British. I love that. But Pride and Prejudice, my favorite. And my other favorite classic literature makes me so happy. Watership Down. If you've never read this and you've been put off because it's a book about bunnies, don't be. This book is gorgeous and beautiful, and you will not regret reading it. I remember we were assigned to read it when I was in 7th grade, and I made fun of it relentlessly and thought, how stupid. Why am I reading a book about rabbits? I am too old for this nonsense, said my 12-year-old self. And so I refused to even really give it a chance. And then I picked it up when I was much older, and I was embarrassed for how stupid I had been. This book is amazing and beautiful, and it's so much more than just a book about rabbits. And you will not regret reading it. And I was also going to show you Jane Eyre, because that's my other favorite, but I think my daughter stole it. I can't find it. It is not in my shelves, so I think she has it, because I told her to read it last year, and I don't think she ever gave it back. So, a genre I don't generally read, but occasionally enjoy is paranormal romance, which is just, no. Actually, I take that back. I really don't like paranormal romance, but I do like Sookie Stackhouse. These books are so good. And I started reading them because I remember seeing someone talking about True Blood, and I wanted to know what the books were first, since I try to always read the book first. And I loved this. I bought the box set almost immediately, and then I watched True Blood, which... This is so much better than True Blood. True Blood is a train wreck, and it was bad. I don't know what the hell they were trying to do. They should have just stuck to the plot here, because these books are way better. Shapeshifters, vampires, all of that jazz. But these, I love me some Eric Northman. Yeah. And these books are great. And as far as vampires go, I really don't read a lot of vampire stuff. I love vampires as a thing, but I don't really like most of the vampire books I've come across. I love the original Dracula, Bram Stoker, and these, and that's basically it for vampire books. I have not really found any. If you guys know of a vampire book that is not lame, then I would love for you to tell me about it, because I'm always on the lookout. But Twilight, no. Just no. Another genre I tend to read is fantasy. But again, I kind of stick to what I know. I need to spread out a little more. But my all-time favorites: Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. These are such different books that this I started reading when I was a kid. My mom was obsessed with she still is. She's obsessed with Lord of the Rings. And from an early age, I remember really, really wanting to read these. And her copies were just like destroyed because she'd read them so much. And so as soon as I figured out how to read, I remember reading The Hobbit and loving that. And I tried many times to get into the Lord of the Rings when I was a kid and just could not. I could not read the words. I don't know. It just didn't work for me. And so I waited, and when I was about 15 or 16, I read Lord of the Rings the first time and really just, like, got it. And I've read these a lot over the years, and you can see. My book is sad. You can see. It's falling apart. I need new ones, because I've read these a lot. And I need to invest in new copies, because they're all falling apart. But I haven't yet. And of course, as you can see, my George R.R. Martin corner. Look at, isn't it pretty? All of them here. And I love Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire series. They are so good. I started this because I heard about the series on HBO, and I wanted to know what the books were first, because I have to. And I started reading it and became instantly obsessed. These books are so good. And yes, they're huge. They're all huge. They read fast, though, because you just can't stop. You have to keep reading. And it's like nuts. I love these because I love that they are so different from typical fantasy. I get bored very easily when they use the same tropes over and over. I'm tired of elves. I'm tired of orcs. It's all been so overdone. I just blah. But I love everything medieval. And I love that this has magic, but that the magic's sort of in the background. It's not really central to the plot, although it is. But I love all the court intrigue and all the characters that you hate. There's a lot of gray. There's not a lot of characters that are just good, and there's characters that are bad. But there's not a whole lot that are just, like, good. And I like that. I like that he is risky. I like that you don't know who's safe. That you have no idea what's going to happen. And this is probably one of the first books that I read, not this one in particular, but one of the first series that I read where I actually threw my book across the room because I was just shocked and sickened by what I had read and could not believe that it had happened. And yeah, I've screamed. My kids think I'm crazy, but these books are amazing. I do read some young adult, not a lot, but I do read some young adult. But I do enjoy dystopian stuff, and this book is probably, this series, I should say, was one of my favorites that I've read. And I'm sure by now everyone knows what the Hunger Games is, so I'm not going to go into details here, but I love that they made you think that it's not just violence for the sake of violence. It's not romance for the sake of romance. It all has meaning. It all matters. I love that Katniss is such a realistic character. I love that she's not just superhero girl. I love that she has real feelings and that, you know, she spends a lot of time curled up in a ball crying, and I think it's too easy to go the other way and make her superhero girl who can save the day and never bats an eyelash at the fact that she has to kill people. I think it's so much better that she's damaged and that she shows that she's damaged. I think that's so much more realistic. And of course, I don't know if this is actually young at all. I'm going to throw it in there. Harry Potter. I love me some Harry Potter. These books make me happy. They're my happy place. I've read them so many times, and I have to hide them in my room because otherwise my children will destroy them. They'll fall apart. Already the first 3 are falling out of their book covers, and that makes me sad. I need to buy new copies. But those are my favorite book genres and some of my favorite books. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I enjoyed making it, and I look forward to doing some more book vlogging because I love to talk about books. We'll make some more videos about that. So if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much, and happy reading. Bye.